So, welcome to this, my final webinar, PlantTools, your data at the center. So, this is all about the data you create when drawing with AutoCAD Plant 3D. Most importantly, for the P&ID data, because as you all know, the know-how is in the P&ID, and so a lot of information goes in there. Okay, so yeah, the agenda. So last session of today. Yeah, I think I mentioned that, and you know that. So Auxelia is a merger out of CAD Studio and Bytes and Building here in Germany. Yeah, our offices. Okay, so I want to concentrate on these four PlantTools. PlantDataManager allows you to edit the data outside of AutoCAD Plant 3D. You don't need any AutoCAD product and also no AutoCAD Plant 3D installed on your machine. It also allows you can also edit the data even if your colleagues still draw P&IDs or still are drawing. Also, you can use PlantDataManager on a specific project on multiple workstations. So if you have one colleague who's entering, let's say, data for instrumentation and another one for equipment, that's not a problem. PlantExpressTools share or have some functions which also relate to data. Helping in data, typing in data, calculating data, and so on. PlantLink, it's getting late. The original purpose was to link some sort of external database customers have to the P&ID data. Again, most importantly, the P&ID data, PlantLink doesn't care. You can also link it to 3D. That was the original purpose. And then a customer asked me a question, which brought me to the idea, PlantLink can also be used to have I call it data flow within your P&ID, because symbols are connected by lines, and that from the P&ID database, I get a lot of information now, and can let information or values flow from one symbol to another. You will see an example later on. And then finally, PlantReporter, which was licensed in 2010 by Autodesk, which is the AutoCAD Plant Report creator. But I decided at that time that I wanted to continue with PlantReporter and add more features. And one of those features is the possibility to create versions and revisions of reports, and also create the difference between versions and revisions. And I want to concentrate on that. That's about it. Okay, so let's start with PlantDataManager. So I will start here. And come on, don't take so long. I just rebooted. My machine is also getting tired. Okay, so I open my demo project I'm using, and what we will see right away is some, I did some coloring. No, it's not there. Okay, anyway, then we just skip over it. If you would see a cyan color, then you would see changes made by your colleagues. So yeah, forgot about to prepare that. I thought I did. So anyway, then in regards to the layout, you have, well, you open your project. There we have different views. I will get back to that. Then we have the drawings. Then we have the data. And then you can have your properties palette. Well, maybe I select something. So it shows something, equipment. And this palette you can dock like in AutoCAD. You can dock it left or right. Yeah, usually left or right. It does not make much sense to have it at the top or the bottom. It can also shrink like in AutoCAD. Then it disappears and it appears again. Okay, I will come back to the properties palette. That's our, yeah, I will come back to that. So what can you do here, or how do you work? In general, you modify data and then you import it into AutoCAD Plant 3D with our PlantDataManager plugin. So that's just a counterpart if you want. So let's type in some values. I did this before, maybe a comment. Yeah, here I did something. So let me see. Tag change. Well, I should change some tags maybe. So if you want to change the tag and you type in a tag which already exists, then you get a message, obviously. So what do we have? Maybe 9 or 10. So 10. Then all the changes are marked in yellow. You also see the changes here in the properties palette. And then we maybe use a different one, also make some changes. Let's say it's already 2, so maybe 4. Okay, and we copy some values here. What did I? Yeah, because it's ordered by the comment, and this is why it's was reordered. So you see the changes here. Oh, okay. What else do you see? Because I changed the tags of the equipment, some of the equipment may have nozzles. So since I use an acquisition rule in my example, let me see it here. So I have an acquisition rule here. Here's another one. That's my demo project where I also do a lot of testing. So you see that this acquisition value also changed, of course. And some equipment have lines attached. So what happens is that, let's see, it's a long list, that the from or to information is also updated. We can scroll just to the other side. And here you see to and from is somewhere else. Not quite sure why it's so far apart. Anyway, there's from. Okay, so everything that is connected or connected in some way will also be changed. You also will see changes in the color of the drawing. And that helps you to understand which drawings are affected by your change. Then let's come to the views. So we have different views. The standard view is the project view. So you see all your project data of all your classes. You can use a drawing data view. Then you simply select the drawing or drawings you want to see the data of. So if I'm only interested in that one drawing, I select that one, but you can select multiple ones. That's also a big difference to okay, yeah. So that's I will answer the question in a moment. So that's a difference to the Autodesk or AutoCAD Plant 3D Data Manager. In Plant 3D Data Manager, you can either have your whole project values, or you can see your current or the values of your current drawing. But here you can select multiple drawings. Okay, one question was, can you restrict or limit the properties essentially you see, or the classes, essentially by user or by user group or department? That is not possible currently. We don't have any user control. We have a US customer who asked for that, and he may be willing to order that, but currently we don't have that. So there is no user control in any form. I should mention, I did this, I think, on Wednesday in some session. In the first one, in the overview session, I think. The way we operate is we have our own list of things we want to develop, but often customers come, the customers would like to see a certain function, which is not available. So it's either a new function or an extension of an existing function. So what we do is we, depending on the complexity, either talk to the customer, or we sit together for 1 or 2 days to essentially specify the requirements from the customer. I will then write a specification, maybe some screenshots about ideas of user interfaces, and we send this to the customer. The customer reads through it I can be sure, and the customer can be sure, that I understood it correctly, and that the customer sees all his requirements met during that with that specification. And then we send him a quote. And when we calculate the quote, we consider that this feature will probably be interesting also for other customers. So when we send the quote does not contain the full costs of the development. So it's just part of the cost. And when the customer then orders that development, we will integrate it in one of our currently 8 PlantTools. And then it will for everyone, it will be part, if they are under subscription, everyone gets that feature as well. And therefore the customer shall not pay the full extent of the price. Okay, so no, that was a long answer. Then project reports, you can define those in AutoCAD Plan 3D. So that's just standard AutoCAD Plan 3D reports you can use. And of course, you can edit in any of these. So maybe I use a different one. So I use maybe here and make that 2. So you can edit here as well. And of course, if you switch between the views, you see the changes transparent or in all views. That's a view or a data view you can create in Plan 3D. So we can use those as well. So maybe I make a change somewhere. Well, where do I have the tag? It should have a tag here. What do I have? TIC. Then it actually should, yeah, correct. So, but you can also use our PlantReporter reports. Here I use, for example, the equipment list, where we see the changes I made so far. And maybe we want to complete some text here. That's a steerer. And what do we have here? I'm not quite sure. Crusher. No, that's not. Anyway. So you can actually modify in the layout you are used to when you print out the report later on. So it's the same, of course. So we can do that or use that as well. And finally, you can use the structure or the definition of the properties palette. And first I should explain what is so special about the properties palette. So if I click on a symbol or a record essentially, then you have various tabs. And those tabs can be defined. By default, we have AutoCAD, which, well, does not show anything because you cannot change the color in PlantDataManager. Then we have the P&ID tab, which shows all the properties like you are used to. And then we have any other property you can define. I did here an example where I have some equipment data, where I have technical equipment data. So I created a group. And then you can also use in our properties palette the related classes. So nozzles are related to equipment. So you can use them and you can actually toggle between the various nozzles and select the size, for example, and that will, changes then of course as well. So, and this properties palette can also be used in PlantExpressTools in AutoCAD, Plant 3D. So you will see that later on, but there I will not go into the details. You can also switch whether you want to have the tabs horizontally or vertically. But that's just icing on the cake. So, and this structure we have here with these groups and the tabs can also be used if you use project or drawing data with a P&ID properties palette structure. So again, AutoCAD is not important. So you have either all of them or equipment. So you have here now equipment, technical data, nozzles, and you can, you have the same structure as in the palette. That was a request by a Dutch customer. You can also, I should mention that as you can also use any column, for example, class name, and drag and drop it. So if you now look here, we have centrifugal pumps. We have these 4 centrifugal pumps. You can also drag it back. Maybe you want to use the type. So then you have everything with P in here. So, and you can use multiple columns. So if then it's really like grouping or grouping your data in any way you want. You can also filter, of course. It's a lot of possibilities you can do, like in Excel essentially. You can, well, filter, for example, you want to see only the things for type with a B, then it's filtered for P, not B, P. So it's similar to Excel. You can also use text filters, but that's now a little bit too much for this presentation. Last thing I want to say is we have something called not placed objects. These are records essentially which do not exist in the drawing. And we have two types. Here the green ones, those can or should be placed later on in the drawing. And we have blue ones, maybe under instrumentation we still should have plenty. The blue ones will not be provided to be inserted into the drawing. They only will complement the record, the project, and you can use them in a report. They will be printed out. Maybe I show our report here for instrument list. Here I have a different background color, so you can distinguish them. And so you can use them in a report, even if they are not in AutoCAD. And what I want to do is just, since I already inserted them, I give one of them a tag. So they behave, let's see, 3 is free. And yeah, that should do it. I have one more thing, and that's how we can use calculation. Let's see. Oh no, actually I wanted to use or select the hand valve. Yeah. So some of you may have already seen my presentation for the for calculations. So my example I have here, I selected a hand valve. Sorry for the German. That's yeah, it is from a different demo. Or do I have that here? No, here it's more a better overview. Come on. So that's valve. So I have properties from the valve. I have properties from the pipeline segment and from the pipeline group. So for example, if I change the line number, that of course changes here everywhere. And the calculation I use is that based on flow speed and flow rate, I calculate the size of the pipe. So first the theoretic or the inside diameter, and then PlantLink looks up which size is then the next one, which is larger. So I have 103 millimeters, and if PlantLink finds DN 100, so the inside diameter would be 107, and that then brings down the flow speed to 0.93. And if I make any changes here, then you see all these changes. What you also see here, and also here for the price, is actually another link. So I have a table, very simple one, which I tested for a customer. So based on the size of a valve, I have an item code and I have a price, for example. It's just very simple. And because the calculation now selected size 150, or here we can see it was size 150, this is why the model number changed, and the price further back, come on, where is it? There's the price. That changed as well. Of course, the size in the valve changes too, and I think that should complete my PlantDataManager part. So what I will do now is I want to import those changes. Before I do this, there is a checkbox, and you can decide if the changes you made are ready to be imported. So if you uncheck that, then your colleagues in AutoCAD Plant 3D cannot import those changes. They will see that you started making changes, but you cannot, or he or she cannot import it yet. So now let's go to AutoCAD. I open the project, and if I do this, or if the CAD user uses or opens the project or a drawing of that project, he gets a message that there are changes which can be imported. I want to review the changes. Then PlantDataManager opens, and you see my changes. If multiple users made changes, you see the various users here, and you also see when they changed them, or the last change. And you can also decide, well, if you have multiple users, you can uncheck, so you can import only the changes of one specific users. And here you would see the changes which are not ready for import. You see again all the changes, the classes we saw before, and the drawings here which are affected. Then, as always, you can make a right click, you can accept, reject, you can click on it, so then it zooms on the object. But eventually you will accept or reject, and in my case I will want to accept everything. And that's about it for PlantDataManager. Okay, now PlantExpressTools. So there is another question. Good point. So the question is, who wins if the cat person types in a value and the PDM or the PlantDataManager user types in a value? Then we have different colors. So if both type in, so you saw yellow, that means that's the default color. So if the PlantDataManager user made a change and it is imported, you see it in yellow and you can accept it or reject it. So, but what happens if now two people made this, so the cat person and the PlantDataManager user changed to the same cell essentially. If they changed both to the same new value, then the background color will be green. That means that, okay, both edited, but both typed in the same value. It's okay, so it's safe, green, like, a traffic light. You can accept that as well. If they both typed in different values, you see the red background color. And on the tooltip, you see the cat user then sees both values. He sees what the one person typed in and what the other one person typed in. So if there is a red, he should talk to his colleague. Still, he can decide if he accepts that or not. But if he says, well, my change, if the cat user says my change is the correct one, and he reviews it and says, okay, whatever he typed in, I don't care, then he just ignores that change coming from PlantDataManager. Also, another possibility would be if two PlantDataManager users overrode each other or each other's changes. That's also possible. As I said, you see the changes of your colleague in PlantDataManager in cyan. So if he made a change, and I see that, and if I hover with the mouse over it, I see the change he made, the value, who made it, and what the value is. And if I decide, oh, I should override this, then you can do this. The cat user then gets the option. He sees, oh, two people changed the same value. And there is a setting. You can either decide, okay, always take the last one, or the cat user gets a dialog where he selects, okay, this one or that one. Of course, in such cases, if the cat user doesn't have the knowledge, then he should talk to his colleagues. But you get a notification, and it's not just imported. Okay, so now the example we saw before is in PlantDataManager in the properties palette is the same here. So I can show this here. I show it with a line, not with a valve, but it's the same. So I can make a change here to whatever 50, and this then changes to size 150, for example. So it's the same workflow. It works in CAT and it works in PlantDataManager. There are also some other examples. For example, that sounds silly. I have here a color mapping. from a Danish customer. So don't get confused by the Danish description. So I have for the service 3 digits, then the description, then I have RGB colors. We implemented that for the customer because he wanted to use RGB colors and not just 1, 2, 3, 4 for the AutoCAD colors. So if I make a change here to the service, that changes not only the color, also here in comment, you see the text also coming from that table. And as you see, now we have this brownish color because that's the color the customer wanted. And I think I have something more in green. And yeah, that should be more green. So you can use the PlantLink in this case to change the color. And another way for calculation functions would be also a kind of a checking function. We did this for, well, there are actually several use cases for various customers. You can use or change the color with a calculation based on an if statement. So I will show you. So I have here this red. What is it? The English name. So what's the mixing blower conveyors? Crusher. It's a crusher. Come on, Carsten, you should know that. So based on the model number, that's what I implemented. So if the model number is empty, then the color is red. So if I type something in, it changes to white. And if I delete it again, it's red. So it looks simple, but that gives you a lot of possibilities for all sorts of checking purposes. And we have a customer, a global customer, who uses this to color his P&ID based on a property value. The property value comes or reflects an order status. We have there a link to an ERP system, and based on the, let's say, status of that, let's say, symbol or what is behind it, whatever, a valve, what is the order status? We have 0 if it's just inserted, and 1 and 2 and 3, and based on that value, we show different colors. And that's simply done by a calculation with an if statement, like you have in Excel. You can do that as in Excel as well. Okay, let me just look at my paper here, and I think that should do it for now. There are a lot of examples. Maybe one is the loop number. This is actually, or maybe I use this example that's shorter. This was the original question by a customer here in Germany, which brought me to the idea, can we use, or can we have the loop number, for example, flow for that customer was actually 3 properties, three numbers, should flow from the control valve to the actuator and then to the instruments connected to the actuator. Because this customer also had an annotation for the actuator, so he wanted to see that, just a different prefix. But so that was the question. And in the database, in the P&ID database, I get all that information. I know which actuator is connected to what control valve. I know that this symbol is connected to actually to that control valve by this line, and I know because of that signal line here what is at the end and at the start of that line. So I can let data flow between symbols. And yeah, I will just show this with the loop number here. Let's make that 1 to 60. It's not propagated instantly because sometimes Autodesk doesn't provide the necessary API. So if you save the drawing, then PlantLink and the calculation, in this case it's just PlantLink, it will update. So the recording slows down my machine a bit, but yeah, now it should be. So you see now the data flows, or the loop number flows to the connected instruments. There is also a way to have the data. This here is the tag of the instrument in the other P&ID. Or here, if I change, these are connector numbers. That's an actually the same customer as the control valve. And if I change here the connector number to a different number, then that is also changed in the other drawing. That's all has to do with data flow, and there are a lot of possibilities. Okay, since I'm already too late anyway, I have to show you PlantReporter and the versioning and revisioning feature, and then of course creating the difference. Just checking. I think today I have in this session I have the largest audience. Okay, so again, my project, and I select my equipment list you saw before, and I create a new report. So I want to create a new revision or version. You can decide. So that's about it. Then you create, and the revision or version is also reflecting in the file name. So L here. And you see this in the text, revision L, that's okay. And yeah, you get the list. That's nothing special here. But now the interesting part comes. You can create or compare versions and revisions. So you see the full history. So the demo I did not insert anything. So I use, that was when I started on Wednesday, I think. So you can, again, compare between all versions and revisions. I only want to see anything that changed. I don't want to see things which did not change. There are some settings like this prefix, or you can add a suffix, you will see in a moment. And the report will also be colored, so you can identify the changes easier. And also here L and I and L are shown here in the file name and also in the header of the report. Oh, I did not, let me do it again. I should have double clicked, but it doesn't take long. Okay, create. I just double click. And so you see a lot of, so I and L are here in the header, and then you see a lot of changes. Yep, that's okay. So everything in yellow has changed from an old to a new value. Some values have been deleted, obviously. Tags have changed a lot. Everything in red shows objects or symbols which have been deleted. And everything in green are new symbols. And of course, yeah, since I jumped over a lot of, or included a lot of revisions, and this is my demo project, you see a lot of changes. Also, related to revisions and versions, you can create a history or a report of all your reports you created. So yeah, a report of the version history. So I will just create a preview, and you will see, for example, that this equipment list gets longer and longer. These are the versions and revisions with ordered by the time and date and time. And you see, yeah, when they have been created. You, of course, if you say I'm only interested in revisions, I don't care about the versions, then you can filter that as well. Just wanted to give an example. So these are all the versions and revisions of the various reports I created. And the same works for drawings. As you may, if you visited or attended one of my other sessions, you know that we can, with our Plant Project Manager, we can create versions and revisions of drawings. And again, the history of all your versions and revisions of your drawings can also be shown here. This is my standard P&ID, which I changed. I did not create a version, I just saved the data. But here you see also the history of the versions and revisions of the drawings. So that's also with PlantReporter. Of course, yeah, we have several databases we use, and of course, PlantReporter knows of those databases, so we can use those data and create some sort of report. Yeah, I think I'm done. There's so much more to tell, but yeah, I don't want to overload you with information. I probably already did this. So thank you for your attention, or for your participation also. And if you have any questions, please send me an email to info@auxalia.com or to my email address, carsten.beinecke@auxalia.com, and I'm happy to answer those. If you need the video, again, I recorded that, but I also have this the session from 4 hours ago. Then I can send you a link to this video. Okay, so then have a nice day, have a nice weekend, and hopefully talk to you soon. Bye.